Wait, remember Over the Garden Wall? It was a 10-episode miniseries that premiered on Cartoon Network back in 2014 that fits the perfect vibe of the season, so no better time to talk about it than now. Over the Garden Wall is a series that originally slipped under the radar for me back when it came out, and I ended up being several years late to the party by the time I discovered it, but I am extremely glad that I did. Since then, the show has become a staple for me to sit down and rewatch every year around October or November. Now that it is that time of year, what better way to get into the spirit than by exploring what makes Over the Garden Wall such an effective watch through its visuals, music, voice acting, and storytelling to bring you into a world that defines the words unsettling and inviting. On the surface, the series has a lot to offer, but even more so under the surface when you dig down deeper into it all. A truly incredible experience that now has become one of my favorite things to come from Cartoon Network in general. It's emotional, it's scary, it's funny, and it's purposefully confusing to bring you something I quite haven't experienced under the guise of a kids show before. There simply isn't anything like it. Let's take a look at one of the best things Cartoon Network has crafted to welcome those who have seen it back into this beautifully haunting world, and to those who haven't, an explanation of why you should give this smaller yet powerful story a chance. Fall is my favorite season of the year, Halloween is my favorite holiday, and the weather around this time is usually that perfect, not too hot, not too cold balance that makes me feel so at peace. So to have a show that steeps itself in this time of year from the color palette to the imagery is a massive plus in my book. Over the Garden Wall is the first miniseries produced for Cartoon Network, as it would go on to be a well-loved series by the fans who watched it, where you can tell that there was a level of love behind the scenes making such a small but powerful adventure that is memorable and craves multiple viewings from its audience. Over the Garden Wall takes us on a journey with two brothers, Wirt, voiced by Elijah Wood, and Greg, voiced by Colin Dean, who are trying to make their way back home as they become lost in the woods. But these aren't your everyday normal scary woods, there's something supernatural about them, as they are also filled with interesting characters to meet along the way. The two brothers, despite their opposite tendencies and personality traits, have to work together to make it through the unknown. The unknown is the name of the woods. With a story that doesn't hold back on darker themes and personal issues, Over the Garden Wall is a special piece of art that no matter what will leave you feeling some sort of way.
Stay tuned as we go over the garden wall. Over the Garden Wall, started next.
Originally titled Tome of the Unknown, Over the Garden Wall was first conceptualized a decade before it would be released. In 2004, Patrick McHale began putting his idea for the show together, fleshing out some details that we wouldn't see in the final version of the show, but the concept was coming together. After a couple years in 2006, Patrick tried pitching the show to Cartoon Network, but this sat for a while as he progressed in his works on other projects for Cartoon Network shows, like being the storyboard artist on The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, and moving on from there to co-develop Adventure Time. Through these shows and the people he worked beside, he was able to perfect his craft further into his own passion project. Could this be a movie, a Halloween special, a full-on show with multiple seasons? Maybe, but this was something Patrick was struggling with. Adapting his base concepts of two brothers who make a deal with the devil and head out on a journey to look for pages from a book of forgotten stories wouldn't be simple, but Cartoon Network was willing to work with him on what this could turn into. When it was undecided, Cartoon Network asked him to create a pilot for his vision and return with a pitch for it. In doing so, the pilot, now titled Tome of the Unknown Harvest Melody, was created and brought back to Cartoon Network as the two entities came together, with this idea being fleshed out into a miniseries. Why did Patrick settle on this? Well, because he felt that it would benefit from a limited, higher quality presentation rather than what would happen if it turned into an ongoing series. Once more time had been given to the concept, ideas from it would be scrapped, and the title overall changed as well, now to what we all know the series as Over the Garden Wall. With 10 episodes given to tell the story Patrick wanted to create, the production on it all started towards the end of 2013, working on pacing a story between each episode that would focus on moments of fright and moments that were more relaxed and humorous. This was a difficult production, but a lot of creative ideas pulled through a myriad of inspirations to design the look and feel of the show all started coming together to really create a tone for what was happening. Originally, the plan was 18 episodes, but but thanks to budgetary reasons and timing of getting the project finished, the series dropped down to 10 episodes at 10 to 12 minutes each, making the struggle of fitting the story properly in this time more difficult. But this didn't stop Patrick and the team working on the production from figuring it all out. On November 3rd, 2014, Over the Garden Wall would premiere on Cartoon Network with 2 episodes each day of the following week, ultimately ending on November 7th. And what it did end up being was a mysterious, unnerving, yet relatable and often funny story told in parts that didn't give you answers to everything right away. It leaves you feeling as lost and surprised as the 2 brothers do throughout their walk home in the woods. You are dropped into a setting that can really be considered ripped right out of folklore. It's dark and haunting, but still whimsical enough that it draws you in deeper as the boys go further into the woods. But there isn't really a dull moment. When things are more somber and light, aiding in the wondrous and funnier bits, there is a purpose as it builds our connection to both Wirt and Greg, and it also creates suspense of what's to come next by letting you have your guard brought down. There are times where these moments can start to twist and turn thanks to the creatures and imagery, making for a more unsettling experience that still doesn't fall into complete horror. But when there are moments that leave you in pure shock, they are way more effective in how they come about. The presentation style of it draws you in when you feel you should look away. The extended cast of characters aside from just the 2 brothers add in another layer of why the series is stacked in talent from every end, from the art direction to the writing and of course the voice acting. From Christopher Lloyd to Tim Curry to the brothers themselves, as Elijah Wood brings such honesty to the more guarded and walled off nature of who Wirt is, while Colin Dean brings the actual expressiveness of a kid since he is one. Speaking of the brothers, Wirt as a character serves as a more cautious brother. Being the older one, he tends to be a lot more serious and worrisome over everything in every situation, being at a time in his life where he sees the world a bit differently than his younger brother Greg, who is a lot more carefree and optimistic towards it all. Together they create a solid dynamic when it's just them dealing with one another, or when they encounter the various people, animals, and creatures out there in the unknown. This is what sells them as believable characters, as they feel like actual brothers rather than characters fitting a certain role. They aren't molded by a checklist of traits, but by their life experiences and what this walk in the woods presents to them. The creatures, animals, and fantastical beings that they meet throughout their journey bring so much life to each encounter, from your standard animals to ones that can talk to a mysterious beast that lurks out in the woods with terrifying glowing eyes that will have you turn the lights on if they weren't on already. It's both parts a show that works for any ages, being a great story for kids to find some fun and some frights in, but leaving room for adults to feel more than what's going on the surface. Because the series leaves you with only fractions of explanations of certain characters or creatures we come across, it allows you to build the extended picture or meaning of what is there. Art can both give you a satisfying reasoning and allow room for your own interpretation, and Over the Garden Wall does that in spades. It has led to so many people online theorizing and discussing so many facets of the show for years, and has built a community all around just that. After many rewatches of the series now, I can easily say that this miniseries that took a decade to materialize still holds up better than ever a decade later, only getting better with each revisit outside of the initial viewing, where nothing seemingly made sense. Because of the ambiguous time frame it takes place, and the different designs used for the characters, it has become, at least to me, a timeless classic that not only perfectly encapsulates the story it wanted to tell, but a series that perfectly fits this time of year, mixing the vibes of autumn in a way that isn't just one thing or the other. Over the Garden Wall is the embodiment of fantasy that doesn't give you an open and shut fairy tale experience, a way to get something out of it without needing every detail of the why given to you. You are as much the brothers in the story as they are.
Stay tuned as we go over the garden wall. Over the Garden Wall, started next.
Why the show works for me is that it plays in the realm of horror not by being outright scary, but by crafting a tone that makes such a lively forest full of fun and frightening encounters feel so lonely. You follow 2 brothers, yet the woods puts out this atmosphere of emptiness. There's creepy things that fill the forest beyond the sidelines of the trees, yet you are more uncomfortable from the nothingness thanks to the ambiance. The setting of the unknown creates a story all on its own, allowing us to be drawn in by the struggles the brothers face and navigating it. There was a lot of delicacy when creating the setting and tone of the show, and the art direction plays heavily into how effective it was. From the backgrounds themselves feeling so flush with details, every tree you see, house or building we come across, the weather changes that occur, all bleed into why you can feel the way you do, to the designs of the characters and creatures we see and meet throughout, ranging from normality to more fantastical to make a clear distinction for the latter, taking inspiration for designing everything through the different styles reminiscent of 18th 18th, 19th, and 20th century America, and by not locking themselves down to having one specific theme throughout, it added to the mysterious feeling of it all. You can't pinpoint when this takes place at first. You feel disoriented when you see clashing designs, and it was all done meticulously for those reasons. This can also be attributed to the music in the series as well, being a familiar yet distinctively off blend of melodies that really lay in the feelings the show is trying to explore, give the settings more emphasis to bring them to life, and to lay the groundwork for pacing the narrative going forward. All of this together brings us something that is truly as magical as the journey becomes. I can't name one emotion I didn't feel when I first watched the show, and when I got to the end of it, with each viewing sense allowing me to dissect more of these emotions felt and see the reasons why each specific moment in the show works and how it all comes together. It was nominated for 2 Annie Awards, nominated for a Teen Choice Award, and ended up winning a Reuben Award, 2 Emmys, and the Best Animated Feature at the Ottawa International Animation Festival. I think Over the Garden Wall is an incredible work of art that everyone should give a shot if you haven't yet, and if you have, you owe it to yourself to watch it again. As a standalone piece of media, I don't think it needs anything additional, but I don't think any additions take away from what the miniseries offered. I say that because there are several series add-ons to Over the Garden Wall, all in comic book form, serving as moments that fill in the time between some episodes, focus on the extended cast of characters that we meet, or tell stories both before and after the miniseries takes place. There are nearly 40 issues worth of extended lore that don't take away from the impact of the show itself. If anything, it helps to extend the greater picture of the world the miniseries created. I try not to get into any major spoilers within this video, as I hold Over the Garden Wall in a special place in my heart, and if you've never experienced it, I think going into it not knowing where things are leading, dropping in disoriented like the show intended, is the best and most effective way to watch it. Over the Garden Wall is a masterclass of animation and storytelling. It was crafted beautifully to create a story in the medium of animation using every tool they can to its full potential to lure you into something that I personally didn't expect when I first sat down to watch it. If you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor this season and give it a watch. It may just become your new yearly addition to watch it. If you have seen it, please let me know your thoughts on Over the Garden Wall in the comments below and tell me how the series may have affected you. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.